Defend yourself against DDoS attacks by hiding your true IP address with ExpressVPN, and visit my custom link expressvpn.com/GhillieMaster in the description to find out how you can get an extra 3 months free. A week ago, my friend GTAMen uploaded a video talking about Rockstar's shift into the solo player experience, being able to do more and more things without the need of other players, and how that can be a double-edged sword for the game as a whole. And I think it's a very interesting discussion to be had, so I want to give you guys my take on the whole situation because I have a pretty strong viewpoint on this. This shift into more solo-oriented content really started with the casino heist update being able to do the setups in invite-only sessions, even though the heist still required you to have at least 2 players. And pretty much ever since then, they've made some substantial changes, like being able to sell all your businesses in a solo lobby. The Cayo Perico heist in general is entirely designed for solo players, leaving hardly any benefit to doing the heist with multiple players, which I will discuss more in depth later. To me, when I play a multiplayer game, I'm playing it because I want an experience that has player interaction. That's what a multiplayer game is all about, after all, multiple players. And lately, it seems that Rockstar hasn't really offered that. I mean, look at the Drug Wars update. There's no good reason to play that content with anyone but yourself. The sell missions can easily be done solo, same with the missions themselves. You can just do them by yourself. And with these changes towards solo play, we've seen an overwhelming amount of praise. This is what players clearly want, content that can be played without ever having to interact with other players. The thing I want to look more in depth into though is why that's the case. What is the reason for the overwhelming desire to be able to play content in a multiplayer game without other players? In any online game, there will always be a group of players who just prefer to play solo, and there's nothing wrong with wanting the option to play solo. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing solo players or blaming players for preferring to play by themselves. There's nothing wrong with that at all. What I am doing though is putting the blame entirely on Rockstar because they have essentially fostered public free mode lobbies into an unbalanced, toxic mess of griefing and broken mechanics, which I believe to be a big driving force for why people have such a big desire for solo content. It's not just that some players prefer to play solo, it's that some players wouldn't mind playing with others, but would much rather play solo than go to a public lobby and have a terrible time with bad player interactions, which happen quite a lot in free mode. And in my opinion, Rockstar has failed the player base in this aspect, to a point where they almost have to allow you to play content in solo sessions, because otherwise a lot of those players would just not play the game. It's gotten that bad. It's just a combination of neglect and poor design and balance decisions that have caused this massive desire for solo content. Let me just run you through a scenario really quick. Let's say you're a casual GTA Online player. You play maybe a few hours every few days. You get home from work or school, you hop on and want to sell your business. So you go into a public lobby of 25 players and try to register as a CEO or MC president, to then realize that you can't because of a limit they have in place, preventing you from doing so. Well, that's already part 1 of a bad experience because now you have to waste your time going into another session to hope for a free slot because players already took all of them in that lobby. An example of a poor design choice, only allowing a third of the lobby to be able to have a chance to do their business work in public sessions. You get into the next lobby, and this one there are slots available, so you go over to your MC business and start selling. Unfortunately, you get the post-op van mission, and 5 minutes into your sell mission, you get killed by a laser jet that is for some reason off the radar despite no notifications. It just came out of nowhere. After respawning, you realize that that player is doing a glitch that puts them off radar indefinitely. So not only would you have never seen them coming, but in a post-op van versus a laser jet that can eliminate your cargo with a single strafe, you didn't really have a fighting chance to begin with, even if the player wasn't glitching. Player versus player competition is fun, but when the odds are stacked against you in such a way where it's near impossible for you to win, that is the complete opposite of fun. No one is going to enjoy that. Knowing that player is clearly glitching the game and ruining the experience for you, you decide to go and report that player, and nothing happens. That player doesn't get any punishment, so after all that, you wasted about an hour of playtime having nothing but an awful experience on the game. It's neglected to where exploiters don't get punished and glitches don't get fixed nearly fast enough, with poor design choices even years later to where the player selling has no chance to defend themselves to make it an interesting or fulfilling engagement because the laser cannons delete cargo way too fast, and motorcycle clubs don't have a perk to let them go off radar to hide from players either. So tell me, after an experience like that, why would someone actually want to do stuff in public lobbies? I can't really blame players for wanting to just play solo if by going into a public lobby they have a chance of experiencing that. And that's also not even a new scenario. That's been in the game since the motorcycle club businesses were introduced that could happen to, and Rockstar hasn't tried to improve the player interaction experience at all since then. In fact, I would argue they've made it worse by contributing to the toxicity themselves by adding in things like the Mark II oppressor and the orbital cannon. Not to mention the limitless god mode glitches that you can run into. Players aren't stupid. They can very easily think, do I risk getting killed by nonsense like jet griefers, god mode glitches, off-radar glitches, while trying to get a few extra bucks for the high demand bonus, or do I go in a solo session and not have to worry about any of that stuff and just have a good time? For a casual player, that choice is very easy. And I know I'm putting a lot of emphasis on free mode, but since free mode is kind of what makes GTA, this is what should be the priority. It should be the main thing. And for GTA Online, the free mode environment with other players is what is not getting the attention it deserves, in my opinion. And it's kind of just left there to be a mess, so much so that people would rather not play and rather play solo. And at this point, it almost feels as if it's so far gone that they just decided to finally fold their hand and let people do things in invite-only sessions. But even outside of free mode, unless you're a streamer and have a community of people to play with, no one is going to join a race because they'd rather spend their time doing stuff that can make them more money. Which isn't exactly the player's fault either, it's just a result of the game being based on this virtual economy. With time being limited, people are going to gravitate towards the fastest ways to earn money. It's just how it is. It sucks. People would rather make money fast than have more fun because everything is so expensive. For the Caprico heist, they did try to have some sort of influence to do it with other players with the cooldown changes, but then in the Jug Wars update, they made it harder again to do with other players with the bodies being able to be spotted by other guards, so now it's better to do it by yourself again. Because when you're solo, you really don't have to kill anyone inside the compound, whereas if you're trying to do it with a group of players and get the gold, you still have to find the keys, which can make it kind of a pain in the ass. Now, how would they go about fixing this problem? How do they get people to want to play public sessions again? I think a good starting point would be a new batch of free mode events with a good pay for winning or at least placing top 3. The original free mode events update was very good for player interaction in free mode because it was seamless. The event would start up and bring people together in the session to one spot, like penned in for example. However, nowadays it seems like you only see the free mode challenges ever, which no one really participates in because they don't pay a lot. I can't remember the last time I even saw a penned in on the map, let alone players that wanted to participate in the penned in. And these new events maybe could be more PvP oriented. For example, they could have a seamless street race startup that says to bring a specific car class to the starting area, and then once enough people get there, the race starts right there, kind of like an impromptu race, but a level above that and a bit more organized. Or you can apply that same logic to a seamless deathmatch where a certain area is highlighted on the map where a deathmatch would take place, and you could go there and have a little mini deathmatch that kind of acts like a little turf war. There could even be a dogfighting one too with that same logic. Or aside from PvP, because I know not everyone likes PvP, how about some co-op objectives that brings players together to complete an objective to earn supplies for your businesses or cash? Kind of like in Red Dead Online, now you have that one with the train where you take out a bunch of bad guys and everyone gets rewarded afterwards. And anyone not participating in these events would be unable to interfere with the players that are participating in them. The payments would need to be substantial enough to where players would actually want to compete over it though, so you don't have the issue of players not wanting to participate in them. But that would bring so much life into free mode in my opinion and would be really refreshing aside from seeing the same free mode challenges over and over again. As for the one-sided griefing problem, this one would require a lot of reworking of cell missions and vehicles in general. You don't want to get rid of that competition, but you also don't want one side to have the obvious advantage either like it is now. Without entirely rebalancing cell missions because that's a loaded topic, let's say you want an easier solution. Get rid of the bonus for blowing up sale vehicles and replace it with a big bad sport penalty for blowing up sale vehicles instead. Make the vehicles much tankier like the MOC cab level armor so they are much harder to blow up, to where if a player is intentionally trying to be an asshole and blow up the sale vehicle to ruin the fun, then they get a big bad sport penalty. And give an incentive for players to want to instead steal cell mission vehicles rather than blow them up. Imagine if you could steal other players' vehicles and bring them back to your own businesses to use them as your own product. Bringing back up the boxfill example, let's say I steal someone's boxfill on a cell mission and bring it back to my business. When I arrive at my business, I would then have to wait there for 5 minutes before I can claim it as mine. It wouldn't just be sucked into my warehouse and called a win instantaneously. This way the person who I stole it from has a chance to come back and retrieve it, and you have this back and forth fight that occurs between the two organizations to get the vehicle back. That would not only be a much more fun player versus player experience, but one that is much less toxic and a lot more fair overall. And also one where the attacking player could also make some good money too if they were successful and actually good at the game. Instead of what it's like now where any asshole in a laser jet with no skill can just blow up cargo and get $2 grand. Like, it's so boring. It's lame. At this point, I don't really know if they would bother putting in the effort required to improve the multiplayer experience this much. Hopefully for GTA 6 Online, they do make some big changes as to how things are and really just take what they learned from GTA Online to make the best experience possible. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments. Do you think it's Rockstar to blame for the reason people don't want to play with others in a multiplayer game? Also, what are your thoughts on my suggestions for public lobby interactions and the rework with that? And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, as well as subscribe to my channel for more GTA Online content. I want to give a huge shout out to all my channel members for your support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.